Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host Omar, and we talk about leadership in the boutique retail world, right? What does that mean? We're talking about wireless retail. We're talking about AV, appliances, furniture. We're talking about things that are outside of your traditional big box retailer where it really matters what you know, okay? Because we're dealing with bigger projects, we're dealing with clients that we're going to see over a longer period of time. They're not just transactions. These are actual relationships that we have where we want them to come back. We want them to refer people to us. We know that this project is probably going to be one of many to come, and we want to be the first and only place that they're going to be thinking about. And as a leader of these type of locations, doesn't matter if you're a store manager, if you're a sales floor leader, if you're an area manager, district manager, your job is to make sure your team is capable of actually delivering that experience to get them to come back, because anything else is just is not going to it's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to make anything happen for your locations, for your people, for your organization. If you're an owner operator, that means the difference between you actually having something that is going to be profitable, you're going to be in the black, or whether you're going to be selling and closing shop sooner than later. And one of the things I want to talk about today is the walking the talk. Okay, especially for you guys that are new into the role. You have to understand what you're asking of your people. And more importantly, you have to be able to showcase what you're expecting from them. You can't just go in barking orders without actually delivering the expectations. Have you shown your people, especially if you have new leaders, if you have new employees at your locations that you're overseeing, did you actually showcase what your expectations are, or did you just bark orders? Okay. We've all played the game telephone. Okay. We've all played it. We all understand that when you say something and as that message goes through different rungs, it is going to get distorted. So we have to ensure that we're delivering that message and we're showcasing the type of message that we're trying to get after. Okay. I cannot tell you how annoying it is for that not to happen. When me, as a district manager, as a director, when I've told my people this is what my expectations are, I am going to follow through and I'm going to showcase what I expect that to look like. Because if they don't know what my expectation actually looks like, they will do it thinking that's what I'm expecting. But then it's not going to yield the results that we're after because we're misaligned, because the communication was not there. You will understand as an area manager, as a district manager, as a director, as a regional, communication is the most important aspect of what you're going to be doing. And if you cannot communicate clearly what those expectations are, what those results should look like, it is going to be a horrendous thing. All right. I'll give you an example. I was a outside sales manager for a big box retailer at one point, and I remember one of the leaders that I would report to came up and had this because of my background. Right? They're like, "Yeah, we can also have you focus on this. It's going to pay out." Mind you, the projects I worked on at that time, the base projects were around $10,000 to $15,000. Right? Like, yes, if you focus on this particular product, we just need coverage there. We need a little bit of help, right? So if anybody, I know you have that background, if you can just jump in and be able to help them, right? Maybe take a few shifts and just focus on that. Okay. What is the actual gross profit that we're going to be looking at if I do that? Okay. You're asking somebody who is working on $10,000, $15,000 minimum projects, right? And my range would be between that and up to 50 to 70 plus thousand. You're asking somebody that does that to jump in to help close something that is going to pay out maybe $700 in gross profit. As an organization, as a leader in that kind of organization, that ask should be completely asinine. Why would I take somebody who can do 10 times, 20 times plus that and stick him in this, ask him to do that? And it's not like, okay, you'll be able to do that. Like, I can understand if, like, hey, you can do that and you'll probably end up doing maybe, 10 of those in the same amount of time that's going to take you to. No, no. the amount of time it would take to do those $700 in profit, in gross profit, is about half, if not the equivalent amount of time it would take to close a $15,000 project. So think of that kind of conversation. Think of that misuse of your labor, okay? As an owner operator, you really have to think about that kind of stuff. What are you asking your people to do? Sometimes you might think it's the most important thing as a director, as an area manager, as a district manager, because it's coming from the top. You have to learn when to be able to push back and say, I understand where you're coming from this. This is where we're at right now. And by implementing that, I just want you to see where I'm coming from. By implementing that, because X, Y, and Z, without giving me a little bit more, this is where we're going to fall short. You should know your business. You should understand what kind of ask you're asking and being asked, and know when you need to push back and say, hey, we can do that. So do you want me to change and focus on this? Mind you, this is what the projected amount's going to be compared to this that I have them focusing on, and this is their trajectory. Which is more important? Sometimes we do have to do that, because what those leaders are asking of us, those in the exec, once again, they are not on the ground. I've mentioned this before and I've said it before, and if you're in the field, you know this. There is a difference between looking at the spreadsheets and what it tells you and the reality of what's happening on the floor. The spreadsheets do not give you the full story. They help you to focus in on where the attention needs to go, and then you need to actually get out there to truly understand what is going on. So if you're in the field, you need to jump in. If all you're doing is making phone calls and managing from afar, you're not doing much when you can't visually see, especially if we're talking about brick and mortar locations. When you can't see what is actually going on, you're letting your team fall by the wayside because you don't know. Maybe it's a simple correction, right? We just need to do this small pivot and we will be good. And then you see that change. But because a team cannot read your mind, because you lack that communication skills, everybody will flounder. And guess whose neck is on the line? Because guess who's easier to replace? 10 leaders or a district manager, area manager, or a director? Who is easier to replace in that respect? We will see a faster change making that change in that one individual. I have been that individual that has made that change before. I have been that individual that has told leadership that this is the change that needs to be made. And then with that change comes the added production. But you need to support your team, because when you're not walking the talk, when you're not showcasing what those deliverables need to actually look like, their deliverables and your expectations are not aligned. And that misalignment falls on you as the leader. And this is where your communication skills are super important. This is why I've talked about my 15-minute coaching framework is super important, because you have that conversation. You have that ability to actually align and correct course in a faster period of time. And you can see those results faster. And when they see those results and they've taken ownership of getting those results, it corrects itself much, much faster than you would believe. You don't need to continue to do 8-hour training sessions. You don't need to continue doing those ridiculous 7 a.m., 6 a.m. training sessions. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've ever done retail. Okay. You could easily correct it, but you have to do that portion of it. And I get it. A lot of you guys want to go, hey, let me digitize this. I'll just send it to them and they'll do it digitally. Guys, there is a psychology of physically writing something down that does not translate to the digital age. It is the weirdest thing, but it is super important to understand that aspect of it. That is why, because guess what, guys? A lot of people in sales tend to be on some type of spectrum. I just don't know. It kind of works that way. Okay. From what I've seen anyway in my case. Okay. And I'll tell you from personal experience, when I write things down, I get so much out that's been cluttering my brain. But when I do things digitally, unless I write that down, it literally just kind of like stays in there and I can't pull it up as easily. But when I've written it down, it is much easier for me to be able to recall it and be able to actually, okay, this is what I said. This is what I envisioned. This is what I'm going to do. That's why journaling is a big practice. And there's a difference between you guys. Let me know your experience on this, okay? Because I know you'll understand this. Between writing it physically down in a journal and writing it down in a digital journal, there is a big difference in that. And that's what you need to understand, that when you as a leader are asking of your teams to do something, you need to inspect what you're asking them. And more importantly, you need to set the expectation of what those outcomes will look like, what it means to actually be successful. When you're asking them to do something different, especially in the sales world, where you're asking them to, hey, I want you to try this approach. Don't just tell them the approach. You need to actually showcase what that approach looks like. And you train on it. That's why it's so important for you to have that ability to train your trainers, your local leaders, your store managers, your store leads, your sales leads, whatever your title for those individuals are. You need to be able to train them so that they can actually do that, because it's much easier. Okay, if you got 10, 20 plus locations, you yourself will not be able to get to every single location and do that in a timely manner. But I can showcase it to my leaders, make sure that they understand it, and have them showcase it. And now I've delegated that ability to others. And more importantly, now I'm training other leaders up to be able to coach and facilitate trainings. As a director, a regional, a area manager, district manager, the most important thing that you can do and learn to do is to develop others to replace you, because then it makes your life easier. It is so much easier when you do that, because now you've actually learned the task that begins with delegating. Because, guys, once again, 60% of the time, it's going to work all the time. Your people are not going to be able to recreate your abilities 100% of the time. Some of them will be able to surpass what you could do. Okay. But when you've done things correctly at 60% rates, okay, two people will produce 120% compared to that one individual. Four people will produce 240% compared to that one individual. It just begins to grow. It begins to actually multiply. And now we are starting to see a foundational difference in what we're producing. And more importantly, we're starting to see a decrease in people leaving the organization, because now they're getting trained, they're getting developed, they're getting something that they don't get anywhere else. Do you guys realize how simple of a thing it is to develop your people, but how few fucking companies actually do that these days? Why? Because, hey, we're just going to do a bunch of online trainings and they're going to retain all that information. If there's anything that the fucking education system is teaching us right now about digital learning in real time, is that it does not work for long term retention. You have to be intentional about what you're doing. So when you as a leader are barking out orders and not setting the expectation and not facilitating what you're asking them to do, not showcasing and giving them the actual tools to succeed, the only person you have to blame at the end of the day is yourself in the mirror. So take this time, make that change, set the expectation, but more importantly, showcase and let your teams understand what success actually looks like, and then inspect it during your meetings. Okay, inspect it during your store visits. And once you're able to do that, you will start to see how big of a difference it starts to make in the way your teams approach not just coaching, but trainings in general. And then you're going to start to see the difference in their performance, in what they're able to attain. And once they start to see that change, because I made this one particular difference in my approach, I just switched things up in my approach and I did this instead, and it got me that result. And I'm getting more and more of it by doing that. Remember, guys, action, it comes before the results and it comes before the motivation. Once they start to see the results of that action, they will continue to be motivated to do that. Don't motivate first, facilitate the change first. So, guys, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to leave it there today. Okay. Hit me up. You guys know where to find me on the socials, if anything, right? And don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button to be able to catch these as they come out. And, guys, I want to say once again, thank you for stepping into another episode here at Sales Manager Academy Podcast. I'm your host, Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.